tout d'activer. Okay, so let's start. So before I wanted to before starting, I wanted to emphasize that you should take this course, understand this course as as an opportunity to be initiated to the theory of tensor category. In fact, so this book we are following in this course. This course is quite long, so of course we'll have no time to to cover everything, but we will go as slowly as possible. We will explain many details, and so you. Quoi? Ah, ça marche pas. Hein? Ça marche pas. Bon, on m'entend? C'est pas grave. Non, mais c'est parce que tu changes de truc. Moi, quand tu as montré le livre. Ah, ça marche pas. Okay. Yeah, so you should. So this book called Tensor Category by Ettinghoff, Gelaki, Nikci, Shostrik. We are following, and as I said, it's available online. This book is quite new. It was printed 5 years ago. So you should understand that as an opportunity, as a chance to be initiated to kind of recent framework. And if you follow this course, then you will be able to follow the book. And then after that, you will be able to start some new research problem directly, in fact. So this book go up to research level, current research level. So it's a nice opportunity for you. So you should understand that it's not just a course of some old book or something. No, it's a really current research level. And not that hard, in fact. So, okay. In fact, yeah, so the notion of tensor category, as I already said in the introduction of the course last time, is related to many notions in mathematics, like group representation, theory of algebra, operator algebra, low-dimensional topology, knot theory, homotopy, quantum mechanics, quantum field theory, quantum computation, theory of motif, etc., etc. So I am just reading the back of the book. So this is really a fundamental notion for today's research, notion of tensor category and fusion category. So, okay. So yesterday, so I want to clarify something I did yesterday before continuing with the example. So yesterday, at one point, I did something which was a bit confusing. So let's clarify that by some lemma. So lemma. So let C be a monoidal category. X and Y be element in two objects in this category. Let A, so from X to X, be an isomorphism, and B, from Y to Y, be any morphism. Any morphism. Then A tensor B equal to A tensor identity of Y imply that identity of X tensor B equal identity of X tensor identity of Y. So this lemma is a small generalization of what we applied yesterday. I wanted to prove that more clearly than yesterday. Yesterday was a bit confusing. And then, so let's call this first equality 1, like that. So proof. So first, A tensor B can be decomposed as A tensor identity of Y composed with identity of X tensor B. But this is also equal by assumption. By assumption 1, it is equal to A tensor identity of Y only, which is equal to A tensor identity of Y composed with the identity of X tensor Y, which is by functoriality of the tensor the identity of X tensor identity of Y. Okay. Now, but A is an isomorphism. Identity is an isomorphism. So A is an isomorphism. So is a tensor identity of Y. So we can apply its inverse and get that identity of X tensor B equal to identity of X tensor identity of Y. So we get that because you apply the inverse here. You apply the inverse here and here. So you get that this equals this. So which is this inside. So this is what we wrote. And this is exactly the what we wanted to prove. So we have that. Now we can apply to proposition. So same statement as above, lemma, but with X equal 1. So the same statement than here, blah, 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 but here we have X equal 1 and blah, 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 and we will get, so then this assumption, we can get that then, so then B equal identity of 1. This is stronger. Here we only have identity of X tensor B equal identity of X tensor identity of Y. But if X equal 1, then we can simplify identity of 1 in both cases, in both sides. Why? Because So the proof is as before. Yeah. So the proof, I will write the proof quickly here. Proof. Apply previous lemma plus L1 inverse. So the equivalence of category L1. So if you apply the previous lemma with x equal 1, you get ID1 tensor B equal ID1 tensor ID Y, then apply L1 inverse. So L1 is an equivalence of category, so it's a bijection on the morphism, so you can apply the inverse, and then you get B equal identity of Y. Okay. And yesterday, in fact, we needed something a bit weaker. In fact, you apply. So yeah. So about yesterday, take x equal y equal 1, a equal b, then b tensor b equal b tensor identity of 1 imply b equal to identity of 1, which is what we use. So we used that yesterday, and my proof was a bit confusing, but then you see where this comes from through a more general statement. Okay. So I wanted to make a remark and an exercise. So remark. Above proposition does not extend to x different from 1. In fact, here we can simplify if x equal 1, but if x is not equal to 1, we cannot simplify in general. And exercise, in fact, exercise. Find a counterexample. Example with x different from 1. Okay. So you can come back to yesterday's course. In fact, the video is available and also the slide. And somewhere I use that, which was a bit confusing. Then you can have something clear, more clear here. So now it's okay. Okay. So yesterday, before the end, at the end, we started to provide example. So example of monoidal category. So continued. So we already provided 2 examples yesterday. So what was this? Yesterday we talked about. So yesterday we mentioned set the k-vec. So the category of set with direct product, the category of vector space on the field K, the category of module on a commutative unital ring, and the category of K representation of a group. Yeah. So today, what we will see today. So let's start first. The category vec K vec J. So as I said, if there is no confusion, we can avoid to write K. In fact, you fix the field at the beginning, and then you just write vec or rep G without K. You can. Yeah. Anyway, so what about that? So this is a monoidal category. The monoidal category of J-graded vector spaces. Vector spaces. So more precisely, you have a space V, and this space decomposes as a subspace indexed by the element of J of the group. And what we need, what we want. Monoidal J-graded with J is a group, or more generally, a monoid. This works for monoid also, but in practice we only consider a group. But most of the time. So so you have every vector space. So vector J-graded. So the vector space decompose with subspace indexed by the element of J, such that the tensor product with tensor product as follow. So you have W tensor product. This also decompose as subspace graded by the group. So the G component of that is like that. So you have the sum, the direct sum for X and Y in the group, such that X and Y equal G, Vx, the tensor product. Tensor product V1. Okay. So okay. You see, so the trivial object. Okay. So the simple object. So the simple object here, simple object. So I did not explain what is a simple object before, but so what is a simple object? So it's an object. So okay, so maybe I am going too far, because here we are only talking about monoidal category and not of tensor category. So we are not supposed to have an abelian structure also. But in fact, so we will see later that monoidal category is just the first step in the structure. Then later we will explain, we'll develop the notion of tensor category. And in a tensor category, you have a monoidal structure, tensor structure, but also a direct sum structure. And so it's a structure of abelian category, and the monoidal structure, so it's a tensor structure. And then you have this notion of direct sum. So every element can be decomposed, if it is semi-simple, can be decomposed into a simple object, etc. So, but this case is quite trivial. And so for the vector space, you have tensor product and direct sum. And you can, so here, it is semi-simple. And so a simple object is an object which cannot be decomposed by the direct product. More generally, this notion of simple object can be defined for every tensor category. Anyway, but not in general, not all objects can be decomposed into simple objects. I will explain that later also. This is true only if you assume semi-simple. But in general, a tensor category can be non-semi-simple. But this one is semi-simple, but anyway. So here's a simple object. So more details later. More details in general. See later. I mean, by in general, I mean for a general tensor category, semi-simple, etc. So the simple object here, there are up to equivalence. Object of the form, you can call delta G with one-dimensional vector space with delta G tensor delta H equal delta GH. So you can yeah. So you can see this category. So you have all this delta G like that. And all the other are just direct sum of such delta G. So they are the building blocks, the simple object. So you can only need to consider such object. All the other are just sum of that. And here for example, if you consider this object, if you take V equal delta G, then VH, the H component of that, so delta GH, this is just so this is a bit confusing, in fact, the notation. Delta GH, this is a Kronecker symbol. Kronecker symbol. So this is 0 if G different from H and 1 if otherwise it is equal delta G. Yeah. So this element delta G, it is also G graded by the group, but all the other components which are not with small g are 0, like that. So it's really an element of this. Okay. And so the neutral, the one here, the one is just, so you can call it K, and this is delta E, with E, the neutral of G. Okay. Yeah. So then the the associativity constraint, the unit structure, etc., are obvious here. But now, let's see how to make A non-trivial. So we will make a new monoidal category called vec G omega by deforming, by twisting vec G. And here is really the interesting part of this list of examples. All the other ones are quite obvious, in fact. This is really the first example which is not obvious. So how to make a new monoidal category from vec G? How to make the associativity constraint non-trivial? So this is not, in fact, this is not hard. This is not complicated. What is associativity constraint? So how to make a non-trivial? So we will see that now. Let's recall what is the associativity constraint here. So for vec G, you have the associativity constraint. So you only need to consider the simple object. So delta G, delta H, delta M. So this is this is equal to the identity. So this is trivial. So this is equal to identity of G, H, M from G, delta H tensor delta M to delta G tensor delta H delta M. And as I said before, this is nothing but delta GHM. Delta GHM. So here, in the usual case, you just need to take the identity. So this is trivial. Here is trivial. So So what can we do? How to twist that? In fact, you see, so delta, you need, in fact, we want to get something different from identity. But delta GHM is one-dimensional. So the set of GHM, delta GHM, the set of morphism is the set of linear transformation from two one-dimensional space. So it's just isomorphic to C or to K. It's one-dimensional. It's a set of K-linear transformation between two one-dimensional vector space. So it reduces to K. So we can only, if we want to twist, so there is no choice, we can only twist by adding a new constant. So, so we can only twist by a multiplicative constant. So vec G omega, so omega is for the twist. So this is a twist. The twist. So vec as follow. So you have again A delta G, delta H, delta M. So it's identity up to a constant. We have no choice. Up to a multiplicative constant because the set of K-linear transformation is one-dimensional. So you have a multiplicative constant which depend on. Maybe I should write. We depend on GHM to answer the identity of delta GHM. So if you have no choice, it is the only thing to do with delta G. So with omega from G cross G to K. Yeah. But the pentagon axiom put a constraint on omega as follow. And now we will redraw the pentagon to explain what happened here in details. So again, this is when you once you understand this example, then you see this is completely obvious. Before understanding that, you can see, oh, but it's look complicated, but in fact, this is not at all complicated. This is a direct application of the definition of what is a modular category, a direct application of the pentagon action. So, so maybe I should write star here. Maybe it should be in a case star. Otherwise, we don't want to have something equal to 0. Yeah, because it, of course, it's an isomorphism, so it cannot be 0. It needs to be invertible. So, okay. So let's rewrite the pentagon. So delta. Okay. Delta G1 tensor delta G2. And we write it with a simple objective. This is enough here. Because as I will explain later, this is a semi-simple. So we only need to care about the simple object. Delta G4. Okay, so we will go to delta G1 tensor delta G2 tensor delta G3 tensor delta G4. Here, what we did, what did we do? In fact, yeah. Yeah. Here we consider, so we apply. So of course, each of these spaces are only every space in the pentagon, they are all equal to delta. This is equal to delta G1, G2, G3, G4. They are all equal to that. But here we just apply the associativity with that, and that. So you apply, you have omega. So G1, G2, U1, G2, you put G1, G2 together, and then G3, G4. Identity of, let's call it X, in fact. So we call this this object we call X. Then we don't have to rewrite that again and again. Identity of X. Okay. Then, so we apply again. So here we go to delta G1 tensor delta G2 tensor delta G3 tensor delta G4. And here we consider this one, this one, and this one, this one, this one, this one. So we can put together G3, G4. So this is omega G1, G2, G3, G4. Identity of X. Okay. So 1, 2. Now we will go on the other side. Here, delta G1 tensor delta G2 tensor delta G3 tac tensor delta G4. And here we apply the associativity with that, and we delete, we don't consider the, the last one. So this is nothing but omega G1, G2, G3 tensor identity of so okay. So here, wait a minute. So we have that. So we apply the associativity only on this space. So this is the identity of delta. So identity of delta G1, G2, G3, and tensor the identity of G4. But in fact, as I said, the tensor product is functorial. So this is exactly equal to the identity of X. Identity of X again. Okay, and then so same thing here. We go to delta G1 tensor delta G2 tensor delta G3 tensor delta G4, and here, as before, so we made the associativity with that, and we don't consider that. So as before, we will so this is omega G2, G3, G4 identity of so identity of for G1 tensor, the identity of the other one. So as we said, this is just identity of X again. Maybe I should write to be clearer. So identity of delta G1 tensor omega G2, G3, G4 identity of delta G2, G3, G4. But this is equal to omega G2, G3, G4 identity of X. Okay, and finally, so I will not try the details here. So here, what? So I made a mistake. Mistake. Oh, okay. So there is a mistake here. Here is we apply the associativity for this group. So there is no identity problem. So this is just, this is just omega G1, G2, G3, G4 identity of X. And it's here that we have the an extra one. So here, for the last one, so we apply here, and this one. Dans une minute.
C'est 16h05.
Okay. So, yeah. So it's a pause. So now it's a pause. 5-minute pause. So we will come back to this point after 5 minutes. Ah, mais j'ai coupé la vidéo. Okay. So let's restart. Yeah. So we apply the associativity here, and we can forget this one. So we have omega G2, G3, G4, identity of X. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Write the thing. Yeah, so you can write identity. So I don't know how much it is complicated to understand. Identity of G2, G3, G4. Tensor identity of delta G1, which is equal to omega G1, G2, G3, G4, identity of X. Again, by the fact that the tensor product is functorial, so identity of X tensor Y equal identity of X tensor identity of Y. So if you apply that, then you can replace that and that by that. Okay. Identity. So the tensor product is functorial. The tensor product is a functor. So then the identity, this keeps the identity. Okay. 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 So now you see all this. You have additional constants. So you can summary as follow. Pentagon axiom reduced here to the following equation. So you have this constant times this constant times this constant equal to this this constant times this constant equal to this constant times this constant times this constant. Omega G1, G2, G3, G4, omega G1, G2, G3, G4 equal omega G1, G2, G3, omega G1, G2, G3, G4, omega G2, G3, G4. So you see, you such an omega is called a 3 cosine curve. the three cocycle. So there is an independent notion of cocycle, cohomology theory, etc. for group. And three cocycle omega from G to K star. So this is quite interesting, in fact. So you start, so you have the basic notion of group, or in fact, if you want to, if you prefer, you can just consider finite group. Maybe for all what I said today and before, I did not say it's a finite group or it should be finite dimensional vector space, etc. So you can assume everything is finite dimensional or finite, then you will have no problem. I don't know. In general, maybe you can have some problem or so. But here we only want to emphasize at least for finite group, this is already a non-trivial example. So I'm not sure if for infinite group in general there is problem or not, but we don't need to care about that now. So you see, you start from the basic notion of a group or finite group, and you have this very abstract and very simple notion of monoidal category, which is a categorification of the notion of monoid. And if you have the example which is the closest to the group, so vec G, and if you want to make it as general as possible, you get the notion of three cocycle. So this is quite amazing, quite nice. And in fact, such a three cocycle completely, with such there is no problem, there is no so much problem with the unit axiom. Such an omega provide a monoidal category. So you take a three cocycle, and then you can twist vec G into vec G omega, the monoidal category. Vec G omega. So it's okay. Okay. So this is the first. This is the first non-trivial example of monoidal category. And you see, in fact, if you understand properly what we said before, this is completely very easy. This is easy. You should not be afraid about this big diagram. In fact, this is just multiplicative constant everywhere. So this is just very easy. Okay, so now, but also we discussed a monoidal category. It's not obvious, but it's still a deformation or a twist of something coming from vector space. And now, the next example will not come from vector space. In fact, in the next example, the object will not be vector space. In fact, there will not even be a set in the usual sense. So now, let's provide an example which is not where the objects are not vector space or set or twist, up to twist, or how to say that. And it's not. And it's an example. And it's not. And it's not a twist also. So something really new. Okay. So how to do that? So this is called the category of tangle. So you will see here this example will be more topologic, coming from topology. So you the category of tangle. So there are several versions. What you call tangle here, we have with a version. I will follow the version in the book. So it's you need to go into three-dimensional topology. But there is another version in two-dimensional called Temperley. I will explain a bit after that. But here, so what it is about? So it's a new category. So what is the object? So the category of tangle. In fact, this is maybe one of the most interesting example after the previous one. But this is so, completely different. So the object here, you take the object, they are the natural number, the positive number. So let me see, this is a positive number or the natural number. Est-ce qu'il a mis ça? So wait a minute. I'm not sure if 0 is an object or not. Un objet, c'est écrit où? So object are non-negative integer. Okay. So natural number. N in Z. So non-negative. So the object here is just a number. So it's not a set in the usual sense. Of course, in logic, in logic theory, so in the axiom of Peano, or I don't know, you can define a number as a set also, but here you just consider the number in the usual sense of mathematics. This is not a set, which is just a number. And the morphism, so not a set. They are not a set. A number is not a set in a usual sense. The morphism, so you have the category like that. The morphism, so you can call it OM-C and the object, so between two objects, N, M. So, so I want to just to mention here that, for example, in the course of Yilong, in the literature, you can see the OM set. People can write just like that, C of NM. This is the same thing. And the object they don't write object X in C, but they write X in object of C. This is just convention. In fact, here we adopt the convention of the book for you to then you can read the book directly without translating the notation. So the morphism are the set of tangle. So tangle. So the tangles. So we can. So I will explain what is tangle. So T and M set of tangle. So what is a tangle? So so I don't want. So if you go to the book, as I said, the book is available online. I give you the link. There is a long definition of what is a tangle, but this is quite boring to write the full definition. I will just draw few examples, and I will explain what is on the example. So what is a tangle? So you start from N to M. So you have you have one plane like that, and in this plane you put n point. So you have n point like that, 1, 2, 3, etc. So you have n point, and you have you consider a second plane in the bottom like that. And there you put M point. Tac, tac, M point. So the tangle, it's a topological object. So we will go from N to M. And what is the morphism? In fact, you you draw. So you are allowed to do two kind of. You will put string. You will connect the string. You will connect the endpoint on the top with the endpoint on the bottom with some string. So you can connect a point on the top and the bottom with one string, or you can connect 2 points in the top with the same string, or 2 points in the bottom with a string like that. Like that. And the point is that they should not cross, but you are in 3 dimensions. In fact, you have here you are in 3 dimensions. This is 3-dimensional. So it's like a tangle in the usual sense of knot theory. So you have a string here. You can make a string here like that. And for example, if you want to add another point here, a point here, you can have a string. I will add a point here also. Like that. So you have a string, and here you don't cross. So this string go in the back, and you can have a dot here. Sorry, like that. And so you can have so this one you can have like that. So you can go like that. So you go like that, and here anyway, so you get the point. So this one cross like that. So you can have some entanglement like that. there is no crossing. This is in 3 dimensions, and there is no crossing. And so this is, for example, if I take this example, you have here. Let me delete some extra. Here, here, n equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. M equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 also. Maybe I can put some extra to do not have the same number, like that. I want to make something a bit non-trivial. So let's do like that. Okay, so you put one dot here, and you do like that. Clack, clack. Okay. So your m equal 8. N equals 6, m equal 8. And so this is an element. It's an element of T 6, 8. So, which is the set of 6, 8. So this is defined up to isotopy. So define it is defined up to isotopy. So isotopy means you can move up to, you can move topologically, you can move, and you cannot allow crossing or something like that. Anyway, and to be a bit more complete, in fact, in the book they allow an extra structure. You can put, you must also allow. So you have some dot on the bottom, some dot on the top, on the bottom, some string connecting dots, same dots in the same plane or in different plane. And you should, so this is your string, open string, but you should also allow some open string like that. So you can have some open string. So for example, you can have an open string which go in the back of that, or you can entangle the you can have a string which go into the entanglement like that. You can entangle everything as you want. This is the generic example of what is a tangle in this monoidal, in this example. So this is the generic example of a morphism of this category. Okay. So what is the identity of this category? So the identities in this category. So you consider the entity. What is the identity? So the identity. So you have n equal m, and you have So in a TNN, so you have 1 and 1 here, and you put n dot, and the identity is nothing but that. So this is the identity. It is, this is the identity of TNN. Okay. What about composition? So the composition of morphism. So here, tangled. This is quite easy. So you just, so the composition, you have one tangle, and you put another tangle, and you will see. So you have a tangle T. You have a tangle T in T and M. Tangle T prime in T M R. So you have one tangle like that T. So I will try to make this a bit smaller. With N. So here you have N point. Here you have some N point. Here M. And you draw some, don't know, something, and maybe something like that. Anyway, blah, 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 etc. So something generic. So this is a T. And then you put T prime on the bottom. So T prime, so you need to have here the same. T prime should start with M to be composable, otherwise it's not composable. So you have an extra like that. Here you put T prime, and here you have R dot, R point, R. And yeah, so let's assume, I don't know, something like that. Something here, something like that, something like that here, etc., etc., etc. Like that, I don't know. Okay. T prime. What you do, you want to make T, so you want to make T, to make T composed with T, so you start from T prime composed T. So you make T prime composed T as follow. So you just redraw the first and the last here, and you remove the one in between, but you keep the connection between between the dot. Tac, 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 tac. And you see here that we create some new close string. That's why we need to put close string, because here you see here there are two close string. When you remove the extra plane, you have two close string. So you have this close string, and you have I don't know, like that, blah 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 blah, and you have something here. Sorry, something here. Something, so maybe something here, we should go somewhere, etc. So you can have something additional. So you, so this is the tangle in, so it's a tangle, you get a tangle in T N R. This is how you compose the morphism. Okay. And what about the tensor structure? And the tensor structure, in fact, is really straightforward. Here, the tensor structure, so here the objects are the number. So the tensor structure will be in an operation between numbers. So you can think about multiplication, but in fact, this is not a multiplication. This is the addition. Because as you, so the tensor structure here, an m equal n plus m, n plus m. So you just had the, so you have n dot like that, and m dot here, n, m, and the tensor structure is just put them together. So you have n plus m dot. So the so the tensor structure, what you get is just n plus m dot. And this is, so I will not explain that in this course, but this is what Yilong explained, the graphical calculus. The tensor product is just putting, if you have a diagram for a morphism, the tensor product is just putting them together. So if the objects are just dot, in fact, you just add the dots. But anyway. And so the tensor structure is that, so it's obvious. And maybe so the unit is 0. But you have the obvious associativity constraint and unit constraint, etc. Unit constraint, 0 plus 0 equals 0. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it remains 11 minutes. So I said I will mention what is temporal ellipse. So this is 3D. This is three-dimensional. So up to isotopy, yeah, up to isotopy. So there is, let's mention the two-dimensional analogous of above, called temperlib category. And in fact, the only difference, so the only difference is that everything must be on a plane, two-dimensional. What I mean is that you so you don't start from that, but you start from one line, another line, and you put the dot like that, and like that. I don't know, like that, and it's two-dimensional. So you cannot do that. You cannot do that because this is three-dimensional. The string go back. This is not allowed. This is not allowed here. You just, everything should be two-dimensional. So you can do like that, and like that. This is allowed, for example. Everything should be two-dimensional. So must be two-dimensional. Must be two-dimensional. No crossing like that. And no like that also. I don't know how to say that. Here it's cross, so it shares the same point, but here this, because this one is three-dimensional, because it is 3D. You go like that, etc. So everything is in the plane, and you can also have some. Of course, you can have some extra thing like that, but not that. This is not possible. Everything should be two-dimensional. So otherwise, everything is the same. So you have the identity, you have blah blah blah. So this is called temperlib category. In fact, in the previous case, the tangle set are infinite because you can always twist. If you don't consider, if you remove, so remark. If you remove, if you don't consider, or if you consider, how to say that? So it's a remark with if you don't consider the closed loop, then so let's call then for the category of tangle, if you don't consider the closed loop, for a fixed n and m, you still have infinitely many, because you can have as complex as you want tangle. But for temporary lib, you have only finitely many one. So if you don't consider the closed loop like that, so as I said, so here it's called, for example, this is an element of temporary lib 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. If you don't consider the closed loop, TNM is infinite in general, but temporary NM is finite up to, if you don't consider the closed loop. So you remove the closed loop. Otherwise, you can put as closed loop as you want, and everything is infinite, but you don't consider. So up to, or maybe you can write some tilde to distinguish the two. Why? Because you can always do something like that. Here you have one plane and one other plane, and you fix at even you do it with two, and you can do tac etc. You can do as much as you want like that. Entanglement, blah 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 blah. You can put as much as you want. So maybe I'm not clear, but this is like that, etc. Tac, tac. So there are infinitely many. See, two. Infinitely many such tangle up to isotopy. And here, for example, for TL22, here, with up to the closed loop, you have like that. So you can have the identity, or you can have like that. Like that. Only. So this is exactly CL22. And in fact, so yeah. The book we follow don't discuss this temporary lib case, but I wanted to discuss it. So this is almost the end of the course. Because I come from subfactor theory, and in fact, in subfactor theory, temporary lib, you have the temporary lib Jones subfactor, which is related to this category. And the number for T in general, the number of such tangle for temporary lib is related to the number. What is it? A very famous number in combinatorics called the c'est quoi le K? I forgot that. So there is a very famous number in combinatorics which can help to count the number of tangle in temporary lib, and this number is called the. C'est quoi? This is the end, so I can. It's almost the end. This is not exactly the end, but I will just look for that for 1 minute if I have time. C'est quoi ce truc? Reste une minute. The number of... Ah, ça marche pas. The VPN is not working. So I will put the name in the WeChat group when I will find what I am looking for. Anyway, it does not matter. Okay, so it's okay. So we can stop. It's time to stop. So next time, waste time. Next time we will explain. We will start with the monoidal functor. Next time we will explain what is a monoidal functor. But it's time for today.